Hi, welcome back to FutureFast, and this is the conversation with Anup Pai on the future and what his perspective on future. Uh, Scary, don't know. We'll figure that out, and hope you will enjoy this conversation as well. And one thing, just I want to set that is that it perhaps is a coincidence that Anup on the same T-shirt and the background, but that also speaks about Anu being highly consistent, and that's the key to his being successful.
Yeah.
So, with that, Anu, take it away. What do you think is the future going to be?
So, I look at the future from the lens of young people, right? So, because any other lens, is the wrong lens to look at, right? So, I look at the future from the lens of somebody who's 20, who's 15, who's 25, who's 30. And I think the more and more, I spent a lot of time with people in campuses. You have too as well. I don't think anybody in that age group wants to continue to destroy the planet the way past generations have, right? So there is clearly a wish to change something. Now, what that change will be, they don't know, and maybe the whole world don't doesn't know yet, right? Engineering solutions are not the solution, which we will come to, right? Now that brings us to the vision of the future that, let's say, our generation, who are in their 40s and 50s today, who are kind of the glue between the previous generation who are 60, 70 and beyond, and the ones that are in their 30s, 20s and in their teens, right? This generation, I think, has the power to be able to mentor a change which is, equitable for both our silver-haired generation as well as the young generation that is there. Because as of now, the way I see it is the old people continue to want to hold the status quo. The young people want to change the status quo very, very drastically, right? Both won't work. I mean, we need to have a
And people like us are trying to stay relevant no matter where and what.
So we are on the fence, right? So let's say we start with that, right? Now, now let's take us, take me, or take you, or take anybody in my network overall. One thing is for sure: what we believe is the digital economy is the future, right? I mean, so today the physical economy, right, is so consumption is great, right? I mean, we need to have more and more consumption because as people trade with each other, as trust and people trade with each other, wealth is created, right? Both parties in the trade are wealthier than they were before the trade happened, right? And digital has the power to make trades happen faster and faster with people that don't know each other. The network can grow. I mean, the counterparties can keep growing, right? So now, given that and the digital economy itself, how do we build a digital economy that is, as it grows, it fuels change in the ecology and the society that it is operating within, right? So the economy doesn't operate in isolation. It is actually operating within society, which operates within ecology, right? Within the
Yeah,
ecological thing.
I think digital will anyway become ubiquitous, right? It's
Yeah, yeah,
just the
totally. Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So, so what after that?
So now the model that we are talking about is digital wealth being centered locally, right? So what happens is, I mean, and fundamentally, what has happened today is, because the destruction that your decision is taking is not visible to you. So the person who designed kurkure packets, right, kurkure, right, didn't know. I mean, she was. I had a fight with her on LinkedIn also, right? So she was just designing because she was going with the assumption that economy, I mean, the kurkure packets, once they're sold in Himachal Pradesh and so on, economy is going to thrive, right? So the whole kurkure thing and so on happened, right? But the destruction that those packets are leaving on the ground in Himachal is unknown to her, right? Because you are far away removed, your actions and the reactions that it is having on the ground, there's a big distance.
Everywhere,
Big,
everywhere
yeah.
actually.
So the distance is big, right? If we are able to use digital to reduce the distance between the producer and the consumer, and those wasteful activities that have existed in between, that are leaving, one, the producer is completely oblivious to the fact of the destruction that is happening in the ecology, in society, wherever, and the consumer is also oblivious to the intentions of the producer and so on, and there is this media empire in between that is controlling both sides of the equation. It creates disturbance, right? I mean, so what we are trying to do with using digital is bring producer consumer closer, right? So yeah.
So you also believe in future we will have more ecologically sensitive consumers. More youngsters are far more sensitive. So the whole narrative will not be about we should. It will get to how do we do it.
And if we can build incentives into this model, so for example, if there is a producer that is eco friendly and is doing everything, if the consumer becomes a token holder in this business, right, and which means that a future consumption is also guaranteed for him, future production is also guaranteed, and if everybody that comes in is also a token holder in this entire ecosystem,
So
right?
I like that part where they say the future is going to be more of a tokenized distributed economy
Total. I mean,
where
what other way
yeah.
is there, right? What other way is there? I keep telling people, look, I mean, you today, I mean, let's take the fundamental centralization, right? We assume that if I have 10 crores of rupees, right, stored in savings accounts, fixed deposits, shares, vagera, 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 and if I have a health insurance, right, I will be safe, healthy when I'm 75 years old, right? What gave you that assumption? Right? What is the worth of this 10 crore rupees, right? Instead, if you have a good social network that is going to be together with you, and if you are frail, if something happens to you when you're 75, you got some social structure that is helping you out, and so on. If you have an investment in a wellness.
in India's Warren Buffett didn't make it past 60, right? Or 65.
None. That was because of anyway, chodo.
Yeah.
So, and look, I mean, so the centralization of our wealth, right? I mean, we think of it as wealth, but we are saving up for what? We are saving up for future goods and services. If some of those goods and services can be acquired through tokens, right? If I can buy tokens today that that tells me that I have a place to live when I'm 75, along with my other 75-year-old friends, and maybe whatever the vision of that thing is, right? And that is a token that I have. That's ownership that I have. That's wealth. Instead of storing it in rupees and then converting it into thing at that time, I've already created a future basket of goods and services, right? And what if that place that I'm going to be living in is within the farm, and it's got all the things that I like to eat right now are there, plus the ability to change the things that are going to be grown there. Yeah, I mean, plus there is a yoga studio nearby, and whatever, right? I mean, and I'm a token holder in the yoga studio also, right? So I think tokenization, people look at it purely from a, right now people think tokens are gambling, right? It's not. It's design.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, we have to design it from our perspective of what those future goods and services will be. So the future again, like I said, if we can build the reduce the distance between producer and consumer, right? That reduces waste. That gets people more engaged. You get to know what you get into the production process. This guy gets into the minds of the consumer, right? He understands what the true drivers of that purchase are, and then those communities build up because more and more people will come to him if he is a good producer. The blockchain and other technologies are retaining trust and encouraging better trust, right? There will always be people who will say, who will do a con job and run away, but at some point in time, it'll be, if it is more beneficial for the guy to stay on the ground doing what he is doing, why will he do that, right? I mean, and if all the transactions are visible and his past behavior is visible, And that is the future I see with open networks, right? I mean, and I feel India, and when I talk to people about this, and old enough people, some old people are really clued in, right? They say, boss, India used to operate like this. यही तो था हमारा life, right? I mean, तुम क्या नया बता रहे हो? I said, वही तो बोल रहा हूँ, right? ज्यादा चेंज नहीं हुआ है. 50 साल पहले ऐसे था, अभी भी हो सकता है. I mean, and we can go back to this earth loving, I mean, where we take care of ourselves rather than kill ourselves and to death, working in mindless jobs where we don't know what we're doing. I mean, in the pyramids that we live in that office politics, because you're in that pyramid. There is the politics that you deal with, the emotional energy you waste there. Why do you need all that, right? I mean, a decent, I mean, Atmanirbhar, tokenized
Uh,
future.
no, in that, where do you see we still, as a globe, we are becoming still more close to everybody,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, so how do you see uh, the the new globalization or neo globalization with the local
It's people
economies
to people.
becoming more stronger?
So I see, the only thing that the US government can do right now is not give me a visa, B1, B2 visa, because that allows me to come and go, right? Similarly, my friends in the US come and go to the India whenever, and that is a visa issue, right? So let's say the visas will be available, right? Continued existence of the nation state, right? Let's say we continue to do, because we need the nation state. Some governance need to be there, because the Indian government ecosystem and the US government ecosystem are good for the citizens of the US and India as of now, right? But really, the economy will be peer to peer, right? I mean, it will be between me and Mahant, for example, for us to do what, and it's already like that. I mean, essentially, if me and another person in the US decide to do business, the government can't hota hai isme. I mean, as long as we do things under the legal structure here and there, I mean, it's already possible to do, right? I mean, and government will encourage it, because we want more transactions, right? We want more cross-border trade. Why should we be dependent on a few companies to do that cross-border trade when more and more individuals can do cross-border trade in things, including digital assets, right? So we could be
Right.
trading digital assets between India and the US. There could be, uh, as long as his thing is in US dollars and my thing is in Indian rupees, and there is some exchange or some way for me to retain value for myself here, which is my circle, his circle, and some trade, right? So I think it's completely possible. And for all you know, I might want some spending power in the US when I go there without having to transmit. So those are things that, that will build up. I mean, I think the new globalization is peer to peer. It's not going to be GATT and IMF and all of that. That will be for the corporate world, for the centralized world. The decentralized world is peer to peer. I mean, what stops us from doing it?
Well, I wanted to ask you in this segment that you come from the banking space, and banks were pretty much the symbol of the centralized power, right? It was pretty much banks influenced the world, the way world operated, because they controlled the flow of money.
Not really. I mean, uh, pre 1985, banks were really the symbol of community financing, right? In the US and in India as well, right? It's only
Uh,
post 1985,
Large
1990.
financial. See, before
Yeah.
that, large finance. I mean, a few people who controlled much of the wealth. They were the lenders to the governments or monarchs, and
1985, after
so
1985 onwards. Yeah.
no. Before that, it was those who were lenders, and after that, it became more structured as banks. Till then, it
Correct.
was
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
probably. So now with the CBDC happening, where governments are taking control of disbursement, right? They were earlier minting and disbursement used to happen through banks. Now government is taking charge of disbursement, which is directly putting the money to you and me if we have our wallets. And we also now, I think Reliance announced they are accepting CBDC, which means to say that the role of bank in the flow of cash is eliminated. in some small sense. But going forward, this is going to be big with even ONDC uh, providing the transaction and individual consumers through their CBDC wallets, paying to the merchants who receive it through their CBDC wallets. So the banks are significantly squeezed.
No, no,
So,
no. So the
yeah,
no, I
go ahead.
take your point. So see, banks are I mean, banks today are the symbol of centralization. Central banks are the symbol of centralization. I agree with you, right? But this is what we would call the global financial institutions, right? Not the community financing institutions.
Correct.
And even in the US, there are 10,000 community financing institutions. I mean, even in India, there are 10,000 community financing
Oh,
institutions,
probably more. Yeah.
right? More, right? So now the global financial institutions, GFIs, are the big balance sheets. This is where all the money that has been created is showing up in these balance sheets finally, right? So all the money, right, is in these balance sheets broadly, right? Now what these guys have got, which nobody else has got, is the information about how to underwrite risks at a macro level, right? So them combined with the insurance industry, the global insurance industry, see the world fully insofar as what are the global macro risks, country level risks, supply chain risks, and so on and so forth, is seen by these institutions, right? Now they can make allocations of capital to entities, and capital allocation is needed. I mean, finally, you need capital allocations to build things, right? You can't do. I mean, so Adani, for example, the the great growth came because of financing that came, the debt financing that came from the banks, right? That can only happen by the large banks, right? Now these large banks have a role to play, not in the payment ecosystem. Payments are a done thing. I mean, payments essentially can be CBDC, can be cryptocurrencies also, right? I mean, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, as long as you and I can agree that my our ledgers are squared off, right? Or our unit of account, ledgers are squared off, and there's some exchange that has happened. We don't really need to go to the banking system. We go to the banking system for borrowings, right? Think of it as a large pool, a reservoir of capital that is there, and we need that capital to be able to kickstart activities. Right now, the entire large the government policy, including World Economic Forum, IMF, and also, so on and so forth, is about, and including Biden bucks, is about moving to a green economy, right? Moving to government-sponsored projects towards combating climate change, right? And infrastructure, right? Infrastructure again has got that climate change angle linked to it. Infrastructure could be roads, airports, ports, all of that, which only government can do. Electricity, vagera vagera, infra, right? So if we are able to say that the banks are capital pools needed for infra and for potentially working capital and other things that are needed in the lifeblood of the economy, and then there are community financing institutions that play the role that banks played in the past, which is big banks played in the past, which is transmitting further into the economy, right? All of us governed by similar governance. So the central bank governance, right, which is of prudential nature. I mean, doing the right things, reducing frauds, and so on, is basically a digital network. We can roll out these behavioral patterns globally. We can do better transmission directly to the source. Who needs the money? Can we identify quickly? Can we underwrite the risk quickly? Can we transmit the money to the guy quickly? Can we track his progress quickly and efficiently? Right? Those are things that are now possible with this infra.
But the same thing, in a distributed way, it takes, see, you can take higher risk, I can take lower risk. So you handle it in a certain manner, I'll handle it in a certain manner. So this is what will get enabled, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
no longer rolls down to few institutions dictating and driving the change or
Absolutely.
anything. So it's going to
Now it's
be
like,
a
no, totally. I mean, perfect. I mean, that's exactly the thing that's going to happen. I mean, we have the global system in place now for this balance between centralization and decentralization to happen. We've got the internet. Internet has come in. There is more and more people that are willing to code. Low code has happened. AI has happened.
yeah. See,
Yeah,
that's where I think even CBDC is such a big change that the standard of USD as primary transaction uh, uh, mode of transaction for any asset or any commodity is is going to be changing significantly.
absolutely. No, so now you can go with an Indian rupee CBDC and pay in the US as well. No,
Correct.
yeah,
Not, but yeah, it will come to that
it will
point
come to that. Yeah.
where and probably few CBDCs will become more powerful, more strong, and probably more get a little more aligned.
I think the mental model to use when looking at this is we are still looking at the power structure that exists today, right? And that has been a power structure built because of the whole colonial globalization push. Because the only way the earlier economic model could expand is by expanding to newer markets, right? So you I mean every company, every country had the same model, right? You expand to newer markets, you'll get that value, right? Now that model is post COVID. The globalization model has been has reached its peak, right? So now we are at a point where that model exists. We've set up the seaways, airports, the trade routes, and all of that are set, right? We are now creating this distributed economy on digital rails. They have the digital. This system has got the best digital already. I mean, that I can vouch for, right? People think that banks have got bad technology and bureaucratic teams and so on, but it's a matter of time before they. I mean, they'll get it. I mean, they're working on a number of things, and they have got investments. They do a lot of investments in tech. Plus, what is going on with ONDC and things like that. I think putting it all together right now, if you are an entrepreneur in India, you can have a global business and you can be a one-person company, right? You can be $100 million revenue company and you can be a one-person global company, thanks to the systems that are in place. So, I mean, and that I
Uh,
think,
I, I think that's a great note to uh, conclude this, and I think hopefully we'll get together with some more different people in this, thinkers in this context, and probably we should have a little more open network debate. If you will.
we will. I think this is all coming, Nanju. I mean, thank you so much for organizing this. The future is coming fast. 2023 it is.
It is, and let's write it, and for the good of all.
Thank you so much for having me. See you soon.
Thank you, and all of you. Thank you. Hope you had uh, 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 great insights out of this conversation, and please share it if you like with more people who can appreciate this kind of a future conversation. And keep following. Once again, thank you so much for being part of it. And Anup, thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. Bye.